So we're getting ourselves ready for race 2 here at Cadwell Park. It's a cold track. There is a threat of rain on the way as well, so everybody's looking a little bit pensive going into this one.
Pensive or not, the threat of rain certainly does spice up the action here at a circuit like Cadwell Park, and a tight and twisty nature should hopefully make for an entertaining spectacle. Race 2 sees the grid of Chris McPhee and Andrew Bourke on the front row, then Simon Cresswell and James Browning. Tom Hill and Richard Ford take up row 3 ahead of Dave Messenger and Michael Tyderman, then Andy Inman and Jerry Chilton, Paul Webster and modified class car Brian Shrub, and Simon McPhee joining his brother on the grid as the two Southgate Motorsport Fiat Puntos top and tail the grid here. So, cold track, as Jake said, possible rain in the air. This could be a very interesting 20 minutes here at Cadwell Park for the second race. Chris McPhee on the right in the Punto. Andrew Bourke on the left in the silver and orange twin spark car. Look for the lights at the top left of the screen. Red lights up, revs rise. Race 2 is underway here in Lincolnshire. Good start from Chris McPhee from the front row of the grid. Andrew Bourke will try and go with him if he possibly can, but he has to watch out for James Browning. He's got a super start from third on the grid, trying to poke his way up the inside into Coppice corner, and they're already banging doors to a left-hander. But that puts James Browning on the outside for the second part. 2 wheels on the grass for the 147. But James Browning lives to fight another day, now coming under pressure from Simon Cresswell. Meanwhile, Chris McPhee says, "See you later, boys." Up the road he goes already, down the park straight towards Park Corner. He is checking out in the little Fiat Punto as the field charges its way up. At the bottom of the field you can see the bright orange Alfa Romeo 33. That's Brian Shrub in the modified class. No Vincent Dubois in this race. His car could not be repaired in time for race 2, which is a real shame, but unfortunately that is the status quo. But we have got Simon McPhee out there, brother of Chris, so the two Puntos out there enjoying life here in the invitation class in the Alfa Romeos. So out of Chris corner, through the gooseneck, there is Chris McPhee holding the lead in the little Fiat Punto. And now also we see under pressure is twin spark leader Andrew Bourke, coming under threat from the number 41 of James Browning. Then it's Simon Cresswell, then Dave Messenger, and then Tom Hill. Those two were pretty well acquainted in race 1. As McPhee looks to try and spread eagle the field here on the end of the first lap. You can see there in the background, that was Dave Messenger making a move, or trying to make a move, on Simon Cresswell into the chicane. They pop over the hill, over the mountain, and into the Hall Bends. And look at them streaming their way through in the midst of the trees. Dave Messenger's car moving around a lot as it swings through the Hall Bends. Reigning champion Tom Hill keeping him honest as they come down towards the hairpin for the first time. Richard Ford also in the mix there. He's currently sat in 7th place overall, but 6th in the Twin Spark Cup at the end of the first lap. And out of the right-hander at Barn onto the pit straight. So Chris McPhee leads. Bourke in 2nd place, Browning in 3rd. Then we have Simon Cresswell in 4th, followed by Dave Messenger, Tom Hill and Richard Ford as they turn into Coppice for the 2nd time. And James Browning looking towards the inside again, up into the right-hander at turn 2. But just no room at the end there. Bourke will not give way as they come up through Charlie's, the right-hander, which is turn 3 on this circuit. And now down the undulating park straight. And look at Simon Cresswell. A good run through the first couple of corners now puts him in contention to not only contend for a podium, but possibly the class lead down towards the park corner. So over the crest, under the braking zone for turn 4. They turn in, Bourke still leading. Browning in 2nd place, Cresswell in 3rd, but the rest of the cars behind just started to queue up now because Dave Messenger is leading Tom Hill and Richard Ford. Out through Chris Kerr for the 2nd time. As Chris McPhee looks to try and extend his lead now. He's got no modified class cars around him to worry about. They're all behind him as James Browning is doing his best to get past Andrew Bourke into Mansfield, but Andrew Bourke again making that 156 the widest car in the venue, and that now brings Simon Cresswell into play. And the bright orange number 6 in 3rd place, the 3rd car in that twin spark queue, is not going to settle for 3rd place if he can help it. Turning their way into the chicane. Looks as though Bourke took a slightly earlier apex into the corner, but look at them, the top 6 in twin spark all together. It's almost a 24-wheeled Alfa Romeo. Bourke, Browning, Cresswell, Messenger, Hill and Richard Ford, and Andrew Bourke missed the apex in the 2nd part of Hall Bends, but somehow gets very lucky and gathers it all back up again. But they're all queuing up behind to try and possibly snatch the lead away if they can possibly work their way to the front. Andrew Bourke got his hazards going, possibly showing the fact that he was showing displeasure at the fact he missed the apex, but nonetheless, either that or it's a very elaborate distraction technique, but I can't say it's probably distracting James Browning too much because he's going with Andrew Bourke, and they're starting to drop the battle for 3rd place now because Simon Cresswell has lost a bit of momentum in the opening stages of this first lap. and is now coming under threat from Dave Messenger. But as Bork continues to hold up Browning, look at this. You can see where Cresswell's a little bit stronger, because on the exit of Charlie's down Park Straight, he's got a great run through the first opening corners. Now then, can he get a move for second place here? They're coming over the crest, up towards Park Straight, and you can also see in the midst of the leaders in the Twin Spark, look at the orange car in the background. That is Brian Shrub in the modified Alfa 33. He's in a completely different class to these guys, but of course the narrow nature of Cadwell Park means it's nigh on impossible to make an easy pass here. So Brian Shrub is pretty much the cat amongst the Twin Spark pigeons, if you like. He's got to try and work his way through, but he's not going to be helped by the fact that Tom Hill is embroiled in the battle once again for 4th place. So into Mansfield again then. And still Tom Hill with a great exit to try and get past Dave Messenger, but as we know, Dave Messenger has been racing Alphas for a very long time. He's a wily old fox, and he's not going to allow Tom Hill through that easy. There they are. Dave Messenger in the tricolour coloured number 79, and then the black and gold number 1 of reigning champion Tom Hill. He's aiming for back-to-back titles this year. But he's going to have to try and get a move on, because finishing 5th place all the time in the Twin Spark Cup is not going to get him another championship, unless his main rivals start to fall by the wayside. And that seems highly unlikely at this point in time, particularly when the trio of Bork, Browning and Cresswell are trying to make a breakaway trio here. So out of Barn Corner, down the hill again, and there's Brian Shrub. Look at him. Look at the power advantage he has in the modified class Alpha 33. He blitzes past Hill and past Messenger, but he can't get himself past Simon Cresswell by the time they get to Coppist. That is how quick these modified cars are, and pretty much within reason anything goes. I think the only things you're not allowed are the full-blown 155 DTM and ITC cars that used to exist in the mid to late 90s. Fantastic machines. As Brian Shrub absolutely charges down Park Straight past Cresswell. I think he'll just about manage the inside line for James Browning. So he'll be up to 3rd place overall. Side by side up towards Park Corner. Browning lets him go because he knows he's in a different class and simply cannot live with him on the straights. But now the intriguing question has to be, what do the Twin Spark cars have now? They get onto the twisty stuff, because of course in the tighter sections they'll be a little bit better. Well, I can tell you the answer. Brian Shrub's got plenty, because he's now managed to get past Andrew Bork, and straight away, having let Brian Shrub through, it's back to square one again, because for the Twin Spark lead, James Browning is now all over Andrew Bork down towards the complex at the mountain. There's Brian Shrub in 2nd place trying to pull away. Meanwhile, Browning puts himself to the inside of Bork, has to go to the outside to try and look for the cutback on the exit of the mountain. They're all touching the grass a little bit, and look at Cresswell. Cresswell tried to get past Browning, who got balked in the second part of the chicane, completely lost all momentum. That's now allowing Bork to escape a little bit further up the road. And now also look at Tom Hill, because he's managed to work his way for the 2nd race in succession past Dave Messenger, and is now right on the back of Simon Cresswell. He did this in race 1, putting an immense amount of pressure on the number 6. But so far the Australian is holding firm as they head out of Barn Corner and down the pit straight. So Shrub eking his lead away, using the superior power advantage of the modified class 33 to really stretch away. But in the modified class, I was going to say, effectively you can have an unlimited capacity, I should say, including all turbo, supercharged and even sequential gearbox cars. So within reason, anything goes. As long as it's an Alfa Romeo, you can pretty much run almost anything you like. And there's quite a few home-built specials when it comes to rapid Alfa Romeos in this class. Think of Graham Seeger in the Alfa Romeo GTV, the outgoing champion from 2015. Very fast car. We've seen him a couple of times, and he should be out a few more this season. As well, drivers like Andy Robinson, and also as well we have Ron Davidson and Roger McMahon as well in a very rapid 156. He likes to campaign that in several other championships, as well as here in the Alfa Romeos in the modified class. As the leaders in the Twin Spark head out of the gooseneck down towards Mansfield once more. Now Simon Cresswell is again having to put up a very stellar defensive effort here from reigning champion Tom Hill, because Simon Cresswell knows he cannot afford to let his rivals take points out of him, particularly Andrew Bork, of course, whom Simon Cresswell came into this weekend 4 points ahead of. But of course after the first race, I think that championship dynamic has changed a little bit now. So Simon Cresswell on the back foot, Andrew Bork now doing everything he can to maintain his momentum and also his place at the head of the points table. So through the Hall bends again, there's Tom Hill number 1. Pretty certain, as we said in the first programme, he should be hopefully on the road to tin top stardom if he can carry on performances like this. You'd be very used to a front-wheel drive saloon, and the car immaculately prepared by Bianco Motorsport, as are several of these cars in the championship. And you can run with a team, or you can run with your own separate machine if you want to. There's lots of sort of independent runners if you like, but Bianco are the main supplier of cars. They run about 6 or 7 cars at least per meeting. Mostly 156s, I have to say, but of course you can pick up other cars, as we said in the first programme. There's 147s, 145s. Any car that runs the 2-litre twin-spark engine is eligible. Now then, battle for the lead overall is getting a little bit interesting because, as you saw, Chris McPhee has now been caught by Brian Shrub. Now remember, he started 12th on the grid towards the back of the field, at the back of the twin-spark runners, and he's picked his way through, as we've seen, and now he's right on the rear bumper of the little Southgate Motorsport Fiat Punto to possibly steal the overall lead. But as we saw in race 1, Brian Shrub's car didn't make the distance. It's lasted longer than it did in race 1, but of course sometimes, as we know, Alfa Romeos can be a little bit temperamental. So fingers crossed he doesn't follow the same fate that he had in race 1. So here are your leaders then, McPhee and Shrub, both together, 2 very different cars, but so far fairly evenly matched. And the trouble is, Brian Shrub now, on a very narrow circuit, has got to try and get past this little Fiat Punto, but I can guarantee that Chris McPhee will not make it easy by 1 iota. He's going to put this thing in all the right places and all the right times to try and defend from the hard-charging Brian Shrub. And of course, we do have another class that's sadly not represented this weekend, but it's the Power Trophy class. Now that is for cars which run to a power-to-weight ratio formula. You can have 195 horsepower for diesel, 175 for petrol, and using all the horsepower down the straight goes Brian Shrub as he charges round the outside towards Coppice Corner. A very bold move from Brian Shrub as he hits the front in the second race here at Cadwell. But credit where credit's due, Chris McPhee is not letting him go through the corners, but now they're on the straights. Brian puts his foot down and says, yep, nice knowing you, Chris, see you later. Up the hill he goes. So Brian Shrub then hits the front here in the second race at Cadwell. He will try and eke away and hopefully gain some redemption for missing out on the race 1 victory. Now then, here are our twin spark runners, a little further down the order. Andrew Bork has a small gap now to James Browning in second place. Tom Hill has now got past Simon Cresswell, so he is now into third as they head out of Chris Corner up towards the gooseneck. And Andrew Bork, as we said, loving this new car that he's got at his disposal. James Browning's been campaigning that 147 for a couple of seasons, and he wants to try and capitalise on that. And as we said, it doesn't matter if you've got a 156 or a 147. These two cars very slightly different, because the 156 is more of a saloon car, the 147 a bit more of a hot hatch. But because of that, it doesn't really matter if the car runs the 2-litre twin spark engine. If it was a standard engine that was optional on any Alfa Romeo, if you like, it can run in the twin spark class. And we have even seen 1 or 2 Spiders running this championship. There is one that exists by Nick Anderson, who does come out to play every now and again, and we should expect him at a few more meetings so far this year. But there are quite a few twin spark cars out there that do exist, and we're expecting more cars throughout the season, more different Alfa Romeos, different faces, different names, and it should hopefully be a very interesting spectacle. Now, yellow flag on the pit straight suggests to me that we have a car off at Coppice Corner. And yes, yellow flags. Well, there's yellow flags. There's a car that's pulled off. I couldn't quite see who that was. There is the slippery surface flag in the background also there, which means that someone has either dumped some fluid or some coolant, some water or some oil or anything else that could be a liquid of some kind that possibly could cause cars to slide off the circuit. So the driver is being told to take care here at Cadwell Park after somebody has gone off. So into Park Corner again. The gap between the leaders is keeping fairly static, but James Browning is making sure that he's keeping Andrew Bork as honest as possible. Through Chris Curve. Into the gooseneck once again. It's a fantastic piece of the track here, because the road just falls away. And look at the momentum, look at the speed that he carried. James Browning with a big lock up to try and hold on with Andrew Bork, and he goes straight on over the grass. James Browning bounds on his way back onto the track. He just about missed out on an opportunity there, and I think just a little bit too exuberant on the brakes trying to get close to Andrew Bork. That now gives this man a little bit more breathing space as he turns his way up towards the mountain for another time. Browning again trying to keep chase, but I wonder possibly if that's rattled him a little bit. Meanwhile, here is our overall leader, Brian Shrub, turning his way into the chicane, keeping nice and straight and true over the crest of the mountain. The slippery surface flag is still being held out, and that's the reason why that looks to be, I think that's Richard Ford that's out of the race. So the number 31 car is not going to get to the end of the race here, I'm afraid to say, as they turn into the hairpin once again, and then up towards Barn Corner on the right hand side and onto the pit straight once again. Brian Shrub now, having shrugged off the problems of race 1, is pretty much charging away as they come onto the last lap here at Cadwell Park, down towards Coppice Corner for the last time. And another car that stopped on the side, I think that is possibly Paul Webster again, has retired, so a poor weekend for Paul, not a good weekend for reliability, as they turn up through Charlie's and the right-hander. Now down the Park straight then. Brian Shrub appears to be on his way to victory. And second place looks to be settled now for Chris McPhee. It's been a good weekend for the Fiat Puntos. And into the right-hander at Park Corner then, keeping it nice and steady. Just wants to get this car to the end. Through the right-hander at Chris Curve. It curves all the way around towards the gooseneck. And not far to go now. Down towards Mansfield, under brakes into a left-hander. Out of it on the left-hand side. And back under power now, up towards the bottom of the hill at the mountain. Just a few more corners from home now for Brian Shrub, taking it fairly easy here into the last section of the track. Just turning his way through, up over the mountain. And he's going fairly slowly. Is he stopping? Brian Shrub is slowing down on the last lap of the race. Surely not. Brian Shrub had such poor luck in race 1. Is this the race done and dusted? Shrub slows down and Chris McPhee goes past. Drama on the last lap in the second race at Cadwell Park. Brian Shrub was corners away. He was moments away from a victory in race 2, and it gets snatched away from him with mechanical issues. What an absolute heartbreak for Brian Shrub, but it's joy for this man, Chris McPhee. He will charge to the checkered flag up to the pit straight. It will be 2 from 2 for the Fiat Punto. Chris McPhee steals victory on the last lap of the race to make it a double for Southgate Motorsport. That's Jeremy Chilton coming across the line, lapped in the Alfa Romeo 156, and the charge to the line for the Twin Sparks is going to be Andrew Bork making it 2 from 2, with James Browning again in second place, Tom Hill taking third this time. What drama on the last lap. Brian Shrub looking for that victory, but it doesn't end that way. So Chris McPhee takes a rather shocking last-minute victory, with Andrew Bork winning Twin Spark in second place, followed by James Browning and Tom Hill, with Michael Tideman, Dave Messenger, Simon Cresswell, Andy Inman and Jeremy Chilton rounding out the 9 cars that made it to the flag, proving that Cadwell Park is a true car breaker. What an amazing weekend it was for the third meeting of the 2017 Alfa Romeo Championship, and Jake has a rather surprised race winner for race 2, Chris McPhee, down in the paddock.
A cracking second race in the Alfa Romeo Championship, and once again it's McPhee on top. It's been a pretty easy weekend all in all by the looks of things.
By far easy, I can tell you. We had a failure on the van on the way up, so we broke down before we got here. We've had failures on the cars. We're nursing 2 injured cars, and yeah, it's the oil made it very interesting for the last race. So yeah, it's been a hard time.
So great to see that everything's finally come good after all that hardship, and then on to the next one, hoping for more of the same.
Yeah, we'll get them back, get them fixed, hopefully ready for the following round, and yeah, we'll see what happens.
Congratulations, Chris. 2 out of 2.
Thank you.
Second position for Andrew Bork. It's a good performance and another Twin Spark victory. That's pretty good going this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really over the moon. Especially this is the first time I've raced here this weekend, so immense pressure from James all the way through. I mean, yesterday's race and today's race. And then, you know, we had a tricky incident, you know, with oil spilt at the bottom of the gooseneck, so that was interesting. James was off on the grass, so managed to gain a gap there. But then, every time we came back round, you had to be really cautious with the oil, so he closed the gap up again. Yeah, it was really, the whole race was just full of everything. It was awesome.
Well, 2 very important victories and a big step in the championship. We'll see you next time for more of the same. James Browning, another second place in the Twin Spark Cup, and really important championship points this time, so that must be something you're definitely happy about.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I said before the race I didn't want it to rain, but we had even worse. It was oil on the track. So 1 minute you're racing on the track, next to you're grass tracking, and next thing you're 4-wheel drifting around the corners. So it was a challenge. It was difficult, but yeah, just glad to get home and say a really important second position for the championship. Really hard scrap with Andrew all the way round, and yeah, it was good fun. And we're all back in one piece, just about. I've lost a wing mirror, but I'll take that all day long.
It seemed like a race of attrition out there. We know that Cadwell has a reputation for being really punishing to cars, but it must be a relief to get home more than anything else.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it is very, very hard. I mean, we run on cut slicks, and you know they drop off very, very quickly, and it's all about the braking and turning in points here. And if you miss an apex, you lose so much time, and someone can gather on you. And you know, there's a lot of curb to hit, and the cars get a battering, an absolute battering. But from our point of view, we got through, we finished, and we got a decent result. So, yeah, great.
Not a bad points haul. Looking good for the win next time. Have a good one, James.
Thank you. Cheers.